Read this Krong Sopheakmit storyline to understand. Long time ago, there was a king named Priyabath, Krong Sopheakmit, who reigned in Champak Kiptum. The king had a wife, named Kezani, and 2 sons. The oldest son was named Shason Kumar, and the younger, Chatak Kuma. King Sopheakmit had a younger brother, Aksopheakmit, who served Eo as a lord. Afterward, Sopheakmit planned to betray Hidala Tilda, HR 613R, to seize the throne and deployed his soldiers around Champak Kingdom. At that time, a royal servant came to tell King Sopheakmit about his brother's betrayal plan to occupy the throne. "If I waged war against my younger brother," said King Sopheakmit, "many of my royal families, people and soldiers will suffer and die, and therefore I should escape from the royal palace tonight." Then, the king said goodbye to his wife and his 2 sons. Kezani, who was a faithful wife, refused to stay in the palace. "My dear, though it is in the hardship, I agree to die with you," she said. "I cannot separate from you, and I request that we take the 2 sons with us." The mother carried Chadak Kumar, and the father held Chasen Kumar. The king, with a bag full of food, escaped that night from his kingdom, feeling very painful in his heart. The king and his wife, as well as his sons, wandered further and further and reached a river, and then they had a rest under a tonlib, a kind of tree. The king said, "4 of us cannot cross this river at the same time in deep water, so I will take you to the other side first, and then come back to take our 2 sons." The king then carried his wife to the other side and told his wife to stay there, while King Sopheakmit was swimming. There were 2 fishermen who were rowing the boat along the river, saw the 2 sons, and then took them to their own home right away. The mother carried Chadat Kuma, and the father held Chasan Kuma. The king, with a bag full of food, escaped that night from his kingdom, feeling very painful in his heart. The king and his wife, as well as his sons, wandered further and further, and reached a river. And then they had a rest under a tonlib, a kind of tree. The king said, "4 of us cannot cross this river at the same time in deep water, so I will take you to the other side first, and then come back to take our 2 sons." The king then carried his wife to the other side and told his wife to stay there, while King Sopheakmit was swimming. There were 2 fishermen who were rowing the boat along the river, saw the 2 sons, and then took them to their own home right away. As for Princess Kezani, she waited for her husband until the next morning. Accidentally, there was junk sailing along the river. The merchant of the junk, who saw Kezani staying alone, went down to her and forced her to go with them. At that moment, Princess Kezani was whining. Her body was almost badly injured. Her heart was nearly broken into 7 parts, since she was always missing her husband and sons. King Krong Sopheakmit regained consciousness, relieved from the pain, and went back to his wife, hoping to tell her the bad news of the sons. The king hopelessly swam across the river, trudging out of water and walking to a place under a tree where his wife was to wait for him. The king didn't find his wife. He looked for her everywhere, but didn't see her. The king felt even more hopelessness after losing his sons and then his wife. He became more depressed, fell to the ground, and lost consciousness again. When the king woke up, he cried and deliriously talked like crazy. He continued his journey alone. His face was full of sorrow. He wandered and finally reached Takasila Kingdom. He went into the park and slept on a lucky stone under a raying tree, kind of tree. At that time, the king of Takasila Kingdom had died 7 days ago. He had no child at all. So, the royal servants and officials held a praise ceremony with 5 royal sacred instruments in a white horse cart to search for a new king, and the procession was accompanied by the music. This white horse cart went towards the park, walked around the lucky stone, and stopped. While seeing this event, the musicians started playing immediately. When he was awaked, King Krong Sopheakmit asked what happened. The royal servants and officials respectfully invited and assigned him to reign Takasila Kingdom. Talking about the 2 fishermen who brought the 2 boys. They tried their best to raise the children until they grew up. The fishermen then took them to the king of Takasila Kingdom to work as royal servants. The king was very kind to the 2 young boys, but did not know that they were his children. As for Chasan, he clearly recognized his father, but pretended not to recognize him. The merchant who abducted Princess Kesini was really willing to take her to be his wife. But, because the faithfulness and loyalty to her husband and the great divine power of the king made the merchant not able to come near her, on the contrary, he was afraid and respected her. At that moment, the merchant went to do business at Takakiza Kingdom. The king asked him to stay one night to see the royal opera in the theater, and he ordered the 2 servants to guard the junk that night. At that time, Princess Keseni was sleeping in the junk, dreaming that she happily met her husband and children, and that there was 2 men giving lotuses to her husband. And then he gave them to her. She put them on her ears, while her husband ate the pollen. When she was awaked, she cried and thought of herself, "Tomorrow, I may be able to reunite my husband and children." At midnight, Chadit sat sleeping, but Chasen woke him up often. Chatit did not want to be sleepy anymore, so he said to his brother, "Please, tell me a folk tale." His elder brother replied, "I don't know any folk tale, but I know a story about the time when our families were separated." "Who are our present parents?" asked Chadit. Chasan replied, "They are now our natural parents." Let me tell you what happened. At the previous time, our parents were the king and queen at Champak Kingdom. Our father's younger brother, Sopheakmit, who was his lord, seized the throne from him. Our father took both of us to escape from the kingdom overnight, through the fields, the jungles, and then arrived at a river. Our father brought our mother to the other side. Not so longer after they left us, the fisherman rowed his boat past by and saw us. So they caught us to adopt until we grew up. Then they sent us to this king of Takasila Kingdom. Chadit asked, "What are our parents' names?" Chasen answered, "Our mother's name is Kesini, but I am afraid of telling about our father's name." Since his brother kept asking about the father's name, Chasan agreed to tell him. "Don't speak out of his name," he told his younger brother. "Our father's name is Krong Sopheakmit, who is the king of this kingdom." Preah Ninkasini, who was in the junk, heard what the both young men talked about. She realized that they must be her pitiful children. She hurriedly came out to them, weeping and wailing, and then she embraced them tightly and said, "Chasan, Chatat, my dear sons, it is me, Kazanaidavi, your mother. Don't leave me, my sons." Chasan and Chatat, after realizing that she was their natural mother, went to hold the legs of their mother, who was full of shock and surprise. Meanwhile, the merchant saw such activities, he went back to tell the king of Takasila, accusing the both young men of having sex with his wife. The king then was absolutely furious. He ordered the executioners to kill the young men. The executioners tied them up with rope and cruelly beat them and took them out to be killed by the king's order. Accidentally, a clever Brahma priest, who saw the executioners taking the prisoners to be executed, went to the king. "Have you judged them properly?" asked the priest. "Not yet," replied the king. The king then ordered the executioners to get them back for the judgment and told a servant to take the merchant's wife to the courtroom. Not sooner did the king see his wife than he was absolutely shocked. The king went to embrace his wife, weeping and wailing so much. He felt extremely sympathetic towards his poor sons. They all were reunited and sobbed about hardship and long separation. King Sopheakmit enthusiastically met his wife and children. Finally, the royal servants, officials and all soldiers prepared a procession to bring the king, queen, and their sons to the royal palace. King Sopheakmit met his wife and appointed Chesan, a lord in Chatit, a supreme commander in the kingdom of Takaksila. They all reigned that kingdom forever!